Thank you very much for being here. Alain Cardon is our guest tonight. I'm very honored that you are here because I really appreciate your work and the impact it had on me as a person, or on me as a professional, and on our team actually. And also, I think it might have impacted our relationship with Stefan as well. I don't know. Alain Cardon is an MCC and he's very well recognized for his systemic approach. He has a unique approach to coaching, a very clear philosophy, and he was invited by ICF to join them because of his unique approach. He's an international bestseller, and you can find his book in Romanian as well, which is amazing. And also some of the books are only in English and French, I think, right? English or French. I'm very pleased to be here, for you to be here. And I'm very honored that we can have this conversation about presence.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. Now it's your mic.
Oh, okay. So thank you. And thank you, all of you, for being here. There's some people we can hear, I think. Some people watch it. Your mic is on. It's okay if your mic is on, but you have to watch about who you're speaking to in your room, or make sure you're silent so you don't affect the larger room here. But if you are sure your environment is silent, I prefer the mics to be on because it's more direct and you can speak out anytime. So thank you, Monica, for your quick introduction. And well, I don't know if I want to say anything more, actually. So yes, the conference is on presence, and I wanted to start by asking you, you came to hear about presence. What does presence mean for you? In other words, I'd like this to be interactive if you can, and share some things and ask questions whenever you have questions. So first question I will ask is, what is presence to you? What's your take on presence?
So just to be clear, this is not a question only for me. This is a question for everybody. So
yes, please, it's for participation.
So please unmute yourself and share. Everybody's so present that nobody says anything.
Hello.
Yes.
So I broke the ice. I'm Simona. About presence, I was very surprised about the theme you choose. So I feel like the presence is being aware of who you are and what you're feeling in the moment. So behind this, it's basically everything else. If you're aware of yourself in the moment, you're present with everything else around you.
Okay.
Hello.
Anybody else has something to say about presence? What's presence for you?
Hello, do you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Adelina. For me, presence is being focused on where you are, who you are, when you are. So the focus goes to the actual moment, not in the past, not in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I can go next. Nice to meet you, Alain. Thank you, Monica. I would say presence is I'm feeling it like that. I'm not sure it might be this, but allowing yourself to live right now, or to sense the today, now, the energy right now. I have this. These are the words that are coming in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, all of you are actually saying presence is I mean, all of you so far. Presence is being here and now. That's the expression. In other words, it's being where you are in the present time, with really no past and no future. It's important to get a sense of it. One of the, I'll get started just on this because I'm getting an association. I don't know if you've had children. Probably a lot of you have had, you know, a child. And when they're just babies, you know, at the very beginning, you can see that if they have to wake for 5 minutes, it's almost a year. The time for a 1-year-old is non-existent. In other words, everything has to be here and now. If you don't feed them right away, they get into pain. So there's no sense of time really, except when they have to wait, and it becomes unbearable. If you tell the child, you know, wait 5 minutes before you eat your chocolate or whatever, it's almost like waiting a day for your cup of coffee as an adult. And actually, we could imagine that, well, they live completely here and now. They live in their body, in their intestines, in their senses, in their needs. Most of the need is to sleep and eat. And then gradually, actually civilization teaches them to postpone. So they learn time. And so we could say time is something that is brought by the parents and by culture, because they have no sense of time. Babies are completely here and now. Everything has to be immediate. There's a impatience, actually. But we see that patience is actually taught to them gradually to postpone, to postpone, to postpone. And that gets them to start understanding time. But we could imagine that if we never postponed anything for babies, never anything was postponed for us, we'd probably live with the same, without being taught time. And that's being completely here and now. In other words, it's good. I would say, I mean, you're saying, you know, we have an understanding that the here and now means here and now, but we don't realize how much we have built things with education and so on that brings in time. It brings in the past, it brings in the future. And we end up living with all this past and all this future rather than here and now. And after a while, some people don't know how to be here and now, just enjoying the moment. Their head is full of past and anticipation and future. They just don't know how to stop. Stopping is, you know, you don't go in reverse, you don't go forward, you stop. So there's a lot of things, I think, that actually, if we want to be here and now, we need to unlearn the habits that we've learned. In other words, get back to being completely, you know, in our senses. Now, if we become aware of this, then it's good to see what, to be aware of what keeps us out of our senses. And basically, I mean, there's mental stuff. So that's all the models, all the history, all the learning. Some people don't even see and sense a situation. They immediately intellectualize. They immediately put it in their models. And the second option is immediately put it in your emotions. Emotions are translations of what your senses are, what your senses tell you. For instance, you could have, I don't know, 5 different people see the same thing at the same time. And each will have a different emotional reaction, a different interpretation. One will start getting mad. One will start laughing. It's the same situation. And so they're not sensing the situation. They're interpreting it and becoming emotional about it. And in a way, we could say that's what we call being emphatic. In other words, feeling the feeling the other person we think the other person has. But we're getting into an interpretation. The other person could be laughing, actually, when we say, oh, it's terrible. Or they could get angry, or they could, develop fear. And we'll say, oh, there's no reason to fear in it. And so everybody, sort of connects with the outside world through their emotions and through their intellectualism, or through their need for action. Some people perceive something and they're immediately up to fix it or do something about it because they have an urge for action. But did they really sense what's going on? So, what is here and now? It is probably more through the senses than through intellectual, emotional, or action, urges for action. And I think it's one thing we don't train people is just to sense. What are the senses? Actually, everybody says we have 6 senses or 5 senses, actually 5 or 6. There's a lot of debate on it. But where do these senses lead if we really get into them without being intellectual? What do we sense as human bodies, as antennas in a way? The whole body could be conceived as an antenna that may emit energy and receive it. Sound waves and light waves and maybe physical waves like shock waves. So we sense through our body, through touch, and through our eyes and ears. These are sensory systems that actually catch light waves. How powerful are they? Do we really use them equally? What are our preferences? And then how do we kick in with thoughts and emotions and so on very quickly and forget really what we're sensing? So, I could talk about that for a while, but we can go quite deeply on it. Are there any reactions on this?
May I ask you something? For me, and I might be completely wrong, of course, being strategic implies having in mind a certain outcome. which is not in the present necessarily.
Mhm.
So how could you combine being present with being strategic?
Well, being strategic is bringing in time. A baby is not strategic. If he's
Can you say it
completely-
again, please, slowly?
Being strategic is existing in time. In other words, having an expectation, an
Mhm.
anticipation.
Mhm.
Okay. That's a mental anticipation. Is it a sense? Well, for me, it's not a sense.
It's not.
It's not, because we could imagine that two people that are like two animals sitting side by side have different anticipations. So that comes from internal interpretation or, projection or whatever. Now, we could say there is a sense which is pre-science in a way. In other words, when there's going to be, I don't know, a flood or an earthquake or some big natural disaster, what we'll see very often is all the animals leave. They all run for the hills. Yeah. So they have a sense of what's coming. But they all have the same perception of what's coming because it's coming. That's pre-science. It's not anticipated. It's not a constructed, individually constructed idea of the future you think you want. So for me, there's a huge difference between pre-science, which is kind of seeing the real future that's coming,
Mhm.
and projecting the future you want.
Mhm.
Okay. Projecting the future you want is one you've built. It's mental. Now, it may be culturally influenced, it may be whatever, but if you imagine that, I don't know, somebody in the middle of the Amazon doesn't have the same projection of the future as you, because he's not culturally influenced and trained and programmed to think he needs whatever he thinks he needs in the future. So that's not a sense. It's your mind getting in the way of your senses. So there we could say it's interesting because that's vision in a way. The sense of vision is to see what you see. That's obviously catching light waves that rebound off surfaces in your environment. So that's immediate sight. But then you can project it further by visioning tomorrow. Okay, but that's projection. Okay, I can visualize, I don't know, that I want to go to Spain next week, so I'll need to go get a ticket. But that's completely constructed.
Mhm.
And I can have the sense that a catastrophe is coming. Now that's, we could say vision, but is it not the whole body catching other
Mhm.
information, like an antenna?
Mhm.
And that is a sense, but it's pre-science. And very often in that case, you won't know what the catastrophe is. You just know it's coming.
Mhm.
You have this sense that you have to watch out, that something's coming. And very often there's signs. So the signs is what? In the forest, all the birds start flying off. All of a sudden, whoa, what's happening? Suddenly your deeper senses are on alert because you felt the sign of impending danger, but you don't know what it is. So you don't visualize it. But that's a sense. And some people sense that. They can even sense it for others. So what are we capable of if we really listen to our senses? Most people don't even know, because they're listening to their mind, to their culture, to their constructions, to their projections, to their education, to whatever they've been taught to think. So the mind gets really in the way of the senses. In a way, if you want to be really here and now, you have to practice and practice and practice to unlearn what is not here and now, that we've been taught since we've been 2 days old. So it's a whole other world. Here and now is actually a whole other world. It's not just an expression to look cool and sound cool. Be in the present, live the moment, you know, carpe diem, blah, blah, blah. It becomes an intellectual construct. It's not in the sense of. I mean, in the coaching community, in the psychological community, in the hippie community, there's talk that's intellectual about the here and now. Now, people who meditate actually practice not thinking, not being emotional, not acting, until gradually they connect with their senses. And then they discover through meditation that actually their senses connect them with a wholly different world, completely different world. In other words, to be here and now, you have to unlearn all the other stuff that's, you know, like cushions and cushions and cushions that keep you whoops. My computer wants to update and is asking me if I want to cut everything, which I said no, so I'll stay with you.
Please do so.
Yes, yes.
Otherwise, we were supposed to be present only with each other, not with you. That would be pity.
Yeah, it's good. So, any reactions? Is this, you know, are you getting into what I'm saying? Or there?
So I have a curiosity.
Yeah.
Because we are today based on our history. I mean, all our brain is made based on the history that we lived. And it can be as well useful.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But if we unlearn that history and we come back to be baby born, then how I can use the good stuff that I learned during my history?
I mean, unlearn doesn't mean that you take it away and have no access to it and it's in the garbage can and it's over and done with and you're back to being a baby. Unlearning means actually saying, okay, these are some skills. They can be useful, but why am I staying only with those skills, thinking that's reality? When actually my eyes and ears and so on, and my body has much more potential that I haven't been learned to listen. I haven't been taught to listen. Except if I have grown in a community that meditates 2 hours a day. Then I will have, you know, enlarged senses, and I look at other people who don't do it and they'll say, whoa, that's weird. They live in a flat world. In other words, can you imagine that you add to what you know without resting completely on what you know? Now, your way of thinking is interesting because immediately you think that it's either or. It's binary.
Wow, that's one of my, I don't know how it's in English, the fractal.
Pattern, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of your patterns. In other words,
Yes.
everything is black and white, either or. So if you think you're going to add, it means you lose. You can't do both. Okay, it's not black and white. It's technicolor.
Yeah.
And you're only using black and white. What
Yeah.
about all the other colors in your life? You understand?
I totally understand, and I'm a
No.
bit shocked that so far, so fast you catch it. I realized recently that that's my pen.
It's in your question. It's in your question. So in a way, you know, in everything that comes to you, you can develop your sense that puts it in perspective immediately. So, but for me, your question is more interesting than my answer. Okay, because right away, oh, I have this sense of, you know, the potential you're not looking at in your life.
Thank
In
you.
your question, in your question. So it's not either or. It's 1,000 times more all together. Being here and now, including when you need to be logical and linear. You can do it when you need to act. You can do it when you need to plan for the future. You can do it. But you can also be here and now.
Yeah.
You don't have to lose anything. You can only gain. But you need to practice.
So there is a chance also for me.
Ah, come on. We're all animals. We all have the same history. We all have the same physical capacity. But we need to train. We've been really, really trained. I notice immediately the Romanian training. You know how to get a group of 200 people to shut up in Romania? Ask them a question. So I'm not surprised. Okay, if you put your hand up, I don't really notice them, but I noticed 2 hands up, so you have some question. Just come out with your question, whoever wants to.
Yes, I have 2 things. First thing that I wanted to say is that you cannot be present all day. Let's focus on the day, no more. You also you can be present for some moments and come back and again be present or not, but you cannot live for the rest of your life present.
Okay, so I hear your answer. What is your question?
This is the answer because before the first question from Alexandra, I wanted to ask how can you live? You cannot live always present in the present, yeah.
Okay.
So my second.
I will give you a metaphor.
Yes.
You cannot look and listen at the same time. You have to do things one at a time. Okay, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
You cannot do several things at the same time.
Yes.
You cannot eat and listen and smell and hear music at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
We can have the sense or the impression that we are multitasking, but we are not really 100% focusing on everything.
Okay, I'm not talking about multitasking because multitasking is doing several things at the same time. I'm talking about your senses.
Different senses.
You cannot taste and smell at the same time.
You can, yes.
Okay, and listen to music.
Of course. There are different senses. Okay.
Okay.
I got it.
Because before you ask your question, you're giving your answer, which you cannot do several things at the same time. Now, I'm not talking about doing, I'm talking about senses. I could be doing a lot of things with all my senses being on alert. I could be running and sensing. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
expand. You know, don't put your answer before you ask a question. The question is much more interesting than the answer you already have, because you have decided that's the way it is in your mind. It's intellectual.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting intellectually to say I can be in all my senses in the same time. And actually it's the case, because all your senses nourish information in your body simultaneously. Now, some of it comes to your conscience, some of it doesn't. But later we could have a hypnotist say, you walk through this street, what did the sign on your left say? And under hypnosis, you could say, oh, it said this. You're not conscious of it, but your sense knows it.
Mhm.
And you caught it. And your body knows it. Under hypnosis later, we can get that information from your body. So your senses know it, but you were not connected with your senses. You understand?
Yes. Yeah.
Some,
Thank you.
some people have that capacity of total memory. Yeah. We call them crazy. There's a known story of this guy that goes around New York in a helicopter just once. He goes home and he draws the whole skyline of New York with all the details. Just looking at it once. Because he's completely connected to that sense that just saw it once. Now, we like to think they're freaks because they're very sensitive. Because we don't know how to do it and we unlearn how to do it. You understand?
Yes.
I'm talking about potentially. I'm talking about the potential God gave us that we don't use, and intellectually, we like to think we don't have it. It's a good excuse. Because if we decide we don't have it, then we don't have to go and get it.
We can try at least.
Well, I mean, it's interesting intellectually to say it's all there. Then we could say, I choose not to go get it. It's my choice. Or I choose to go get some of it. I become more responsible rather than let my mind say, oh, I have nothing for me. You know, some people who have it, oh, they're freaks. That's
Freaks
how
are interesting.
what a lot of
Depends
people
how
do.
it's-
You know, they look at others that have skills and they say, oh, they're lucky, they're born with it, or whatever. Or, you know, we'll find excuses for others to justify that we don't do it.
Mhm.
Normal. That's also our education.
Yeah. That leads me to the question or second question. And I will put it as a question, not as an affirmation. I have a small child, and I'm exactly where in that period where I'm teaching him about the time. Yes.
Yes.
We are going through that now,
Yes,
and
yes.
he's teaching me also to be more present. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And he has these reactions when I'm talking about a plan for tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll go to swimming pool. I'm trying to teach him to swim, and he likes it so much. And when he sees that we are not going now, he gets it's a drama. It's a
Well, of
drama,
course.
and
I mean, that's you have 1,000 examples like this. You know?
yes. And my
Um,
question is,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. So your question is what?
My question is, how do I still have to teach him about the time and how about planification and all this, because he will live in society, right? So it's not that because I have the opportunity now to, or he will have to unlearn when
Okay.
he grows up.
Wait. You're saying you have choices and you want to go through some choices. It's great. Make your choices, do your choices. Some parents say, okay, you know, the education system is too rigid. You know, for instance, I don't know, when a child is, before he goes to school, very early, you leave him in a room with a lot of people. If he's halfway, you know, feels safe, well, he'll say hello, he'll explore, he'll walk around, he'll put his fingers in the plug. You know, everything is interesting. Okay, that's a job. Now, what is schooling for? It's to prepare him to fit into society. Okay.
Yeah.
So you ask a child, very small, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he'll say, I want to be, you know, an astronaut. I want to be a fireman. I want to be da, da, da. Okay. Then you put him through school. By the time he's 16, you say, what do you want to do later? He says, I don't know. Okay. So the education succeeded. In other words, education is don't think, don't look out the window. Do what your teacher says. Don't answer anything unless you're sure that's what your teacher wants to hear. Line up, put on a uniform, get ready to work in the factory, to listen to the boss, to say what people want to hear. Okay. So at the end of education, we have zombies ready to work in factories. That's the function of education. Education was invented in the 18th century with the Industrial Revolution. To take people from the country that were open to everything and sensing too many things. They're not adapted for the fucking life. We've got to get them out of the country and bring them to live in blocks of buildings and all work together by taking the metro, etc. We want machines. Okay. So they're adapted to society. Now, some people put their kids in Montessori schools, free schools, etc., saying, I want my child to keep more of what he is. Okay.
Yeah.
And they do things with them to open them up to other things. When my kids were under 10, we took them in on a trip in the Sahara with camels and Tuareg cooking bread, in the sand and stuff like that. It was a shock for them coming from Paris suburb, being in school. So, okay, they're in school, but what can you do to keep them alive, interested with things they never imagined existed? Keep their spirit of exploration through their senses. That's also possible to do at the same time. So yes, part of the parents' role is to prepare them for civilization, but how can you also help them develop their senses? keep their sense. So Andrea, you also have your hand up. There's people lining up with hands up. Let's move on a little bit. But don't bring your, I would say, you know, before worrying about your kids, you need to worry about yourself. Because your kids won't develop anything you don't develop. They love you too much. They want to be like you.
Yes, that's why I'm asking about him, because
Yeah.
sometimes I notice myself that I'm trying to force him
Yeah,
into this.
wait. We won't have a one-on-one discussion for the whole evening. So don't
Okay,
go
sorry.
on. Okay? Don't go on. It's important to bring your thing, take it, and then sit back and so on. We're not going to talk about your kid all night and your problem with your kid all night. So take it for yourself. In other words, if you're developing and opening your senses, you're modeling something for your children. They will follow you. If you don't do it and tell them to do it, well, they'll turn around and tell somebody else to do it, and they won't do it. So what's important is what you do for yourself. Then you model to other people. And it's real because you're doing it. It's not words, it's not intellectual. If you don't do it, it's just words. It's just intellectual. So get started is my message for you. So Andrea, sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Alain, thank you, Monica. My question is, I practice lots kind of meditation. I extract ideas from any source of information I can. When I'm in peaceful states and I meditate, I can enter that present moment. But when I am at work, sometimes not with all the clients, I am able to enjoy their presence, their energy. Sometimes it's very hard to create that powerful connection. How do I get that state
How
as
often
much as I can?
What's your meditation rhythm?
Mindfulness, all kind of meditation.
Wait. You didn't hear my question.
Sorry.
What is your meditation rhythm?
Rhythm? Oh, yeah. I just breathe and I enjoy.
No, I didn't ask how you meditate. Do you meditate an hour every day in the morning?
Oh, no. I meditate whenever I can. Sorry, I didn't understand. I meditate sometimes more times a day. Sometimes I don't even meditate for 1 or 2 days. But as much as I can, I have a little bit of free time.
I just need the rhythm. I will
Monica, mă ajut, te rog? La ce se referă? Ritm. În ce ritm?
Rhythm is how often, how long. Okay.
I don't know, 3-4 times a day, in the morning, in the evening, before I go to bed, something like that.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Develop a regular rhythm.
Oh, okay.
Which is short, very often. Okay.
Okay.
I'll give you an extreme. You could meditate for a month every year. But then when you go back, you gradually lose it. It doesn't get in your life.
I understand, yes.
Okay? You can meditate for 4 hours every week. Or you can meditate 20 minutes in the morning and at night. Or you can meditate 5 minutes every hour.
Okay.
If you meditate 5 minutes every hour, your state will gradually get everywhere into your life. You understand? It's like people that get stressed at work. They get really stressed and so on. And they can't wait for vacation. And then they go on vacation. And there they relax. But for about half the vacation, they're actually coming out of the stress. So it's not a vacation. Okay?
Yes.
You need to have a vacation 5 minutes every hour.
Thank you for the suggestion. It's hard, but I'll try.
You understand? No,
Yes,
I mean, even 2 minutes or whatever. So put it in everything you do. You can do walking meditation. You can do drinking coffee meditation.
Huh.
You can do meditation everywhere you have space, is to get back into your meditation state. Okay. Then gradually it will be completely in your space all the time.
I would like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
You understand?
Yes.
Then
absolutely.
once in a while you can do a marathon to boost it, but
Okay.
you need to keep your 5 minutes every hour minimum. Okay. Or
I'll
3.
try that. It's
But-
hard. It's hard.
No,
with
it's
customers.
short. It's short and it's constant. Okay, it's a very different approach. So,
Uh-huh.
in other words, a lot of the Western world knows what to do, but they do it as a compensation for continuing the crazy life.
Hmm.
You need to bring it into your life to change your life, not as a compensation.
Mm.
I'm sure you meditate when you feel that you had too much, so I'll meditate. It's okay. It's curative. It's not preventive.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. Okay, well, let's have another. There's a few questions and then I'll continue. Simona.
I was preparing a question and I realized an expression in English. Get into your senses. I was thinking about it like get rational, but now it gets
no,
behind.
No, it's not come to your senses. You know, that is a parent talking to you. In other words, do what I think you should do. Come to your senses. That's another expression. But getting into your senses, there's, you know, it's what is seeing. That's the basic senses. Okay, seeing,
Okay.
listening, and they come together, and then you have taste and smell. There's links, but there's also links between smell and hearing, because they have some common points, and actually they all work together. And if you really develop all your senses, your whole body starts taking from all the senses, and you become aware.
Oh.
You become
Okay.
more conscious, because
What?
everything melts into together, but it's information from your senses. You understand? So
Yes.
practice your senses, practice your senses.
I'm doing that. I'm practicing meditation for I think 3 years now. Now it gets really at a good level, let's say, of awareness.
Yeah.
I had a conversation some time ago with somebody, and was telling me that basically, okay, what are you losing by doing meditation? Just think what kind of skills are you losing or information you're not thinking about. Is it that we lose a part of what we know knew, or
We already dealt with this. In other words, what you're thinking is what you're trained to think. Okay. Now, if you want to listen to what you're trained to think, you're not going to listen to your senses and your awareness. Okay. Now, we could say the main sense that you develop in meditation is consciousness. Okay. Now, consciousness, we could say, is like the big pipe in which all the other senses flow. So if you're unconscious, for instance, you lose consciousness, you have no sense of anything. You need to be conscious so your senses can work. Okay. So you have in consciousness very specific pipes, and that's hearing, seeing, etc. Now, by meditation, you work on consciousness, which includes the other pipes, but you can also become much more conscious of what each pipe tells you and increase you know, the awareness of what each pipe tells you, and then what each mix of pipes serves to do. I can give some examples. Okay. For instance, we have hearing and seeing. Now, they happen to be on the same level. Okay. And they are pairs. So they help you figure out distance, like in stereo. We had only one eye. Okay. So it helps to triangulate so you can position things at a distance through sound and through sight. Now, looking at things actually is very precise. You can't look at several things at the same time. Your eye moves very quickly, but it focuses on pixels each at a time. Okay. Whereas sound actually catches things from all around all the time. It's like a fish in water. Okay. You will get shock waves from the water. He's not even aware of the water. Okay. So sound catches waves in a stereophonic way, and sight is much more focused. If you're visual, there's a chance that you're more analytical. Okay. Because it will drive you to micromanagement. Because that's what visual does. If you're auditive, it will actually help you discriminate, discernment in Romanian. What doesn't fit the harmony of the whole thing? What sticks out all of a sudden that comes from the right or the left? So in sound, you bathe in an environment and you'll suddenly hear something that will attract your attention. The eyes don't do this, okay? Unless it's a bright light, of course, okay? But in a, so they're very complementary. Now, if you have very good audition, which is the quality, we could say, of a coach. We don't say the quality of a coach is visual. That's more the quality of a manager, a micromanager. You're going to look in this, look in that, look in everything, look at everything. Okay, it's analytical. But a good ear can listen to an orchestra, 100 instruments, and say, this instrument came late. So audition develops your sense of harmony and how you can fit in the harmony, how you can contribute to the harmony, and how you can pick up very quickly what is not in the harmony of the rest. And that's what we do when we listen to coaches. We listen as coaches. Okay.
Okay.
Coaches developed much more on listening. That's why we want our clients to talk, than on watching. Yeah, I would suggest, if you want to develop as a coach, to coach without your glasses, if you have glasses, to coach without seeing, coach on the phone. That's what I do in practicing the coaches. I get them off seeing. I tell them even to coach with airline, eye masks on the phone. So they don't see anything. They'll start developing audition. A blind man can walk down the street and hear the echoes that come off buildings and other things. He'll know there's things there. From audition, he sees. From the sound waves that rebound. Okay. There's some blind people that have been known to walk around in a room by clicking sounds and listening to the echo of the click, like a bat. Well, he developed this because he couldn't see. In our culture, we're trained to look, not to listen. Much more to look than to listen. And I know a lot of coaches that say, oh, coaching face-to-face is 10 times better. Glad Zoom came, it's better than the telephone. Yeah, but before television came, everybody was around the radio. So gradually civilization is developing more senses and some are going to sleep. We need to be aware how we're being warped by civilization.
Yeah.
And you know, get out. In other words, some people say, stop watching TV, stop looking at your phone, stop that. Go out in nature. Okay? Redevelop your senses. Well, not a bad idea, unless you want to really fit in civilization and get the best of it. It's a choice. But be aware that civilization is dulling some senses.
Yep.
Now, the same thing can be said of the mouth and nose. Now, the mouth is taste and the nose is smell. But people don't know taste anymore. Because most of what we taste is actually smell. Some people who lost the sense of smell with COVID suddenly realized nothing tastes.
Mhm.
Okay? You see, they didn't lose the sense of taste, they lost the sense of smell. But when they tasted things, they could taste if it was acid or neutral, sour. That's taste. Taste actually gives you indications of the quality of liquids. It was very important before distilled water, because we would be somewhere out in nature and we had to taste the quality of what we would drink. And rapidly decide, whoops, it's dangerous, or yes, it's okay. Because our body is 60% water at my age, 90% water for a baby. We dry up gradually. So whatever we drank, we had, and ate actually, but whatever we drank, we had to watch out of the quality of the liquid. When we eat, we actually masticate and mix our liquid with the liquid dimension of what we eat. We make it liquid and we may spit it out. It's only after we make it liquid that we realize it's not good for us. Because the sense of taste is to watch what you're going to integrate into your body. Now, of course, smell can help you first. You'll smell it, well, you know, you won't eat it. But the nose can catch the presence of one atom in a room. It's extremely sensitive. Okay? Immediately. For instance, I don't know, gas, like, what do you call it? Butane and methane doesn't have a smell. But companies put a smell in it. So if you come home and there's a gas leak, you'll know. Okay? It's for your protection because it doesn't have a smell. If there's just a little bit of gas, even walking in the street, you can say, oh, there's a gas leak. You can smell it. Now, this is really important for animals. We have a sense of smell that is the equivalent of a dog. Okay? A dog meets 5 dogs, he can rapidly smell them to identify their differences. And whenever he meets one again, he knows the smell. When he meets you again, he knows your smell. Very quick. We are animals. Our sense of smell is a bit forgotten. We're overloaded with specific senses of smell. We're trained, specific smells. We're trained to favorite. Okay. Like in Romania, it's the smell of the meat on the grill. Somebody's having a barbecue, you salivate. Okay. So, but what about all the others? So we're trained to, you know, be attracted to some, not even smell some of it. So, now, when you step in a room, what does your nose tell you? Now, the sense of smell is also a hunter's smell. That's the extension. You understand that?
Yeah. So it goes beyond the normal smell. It's more like you're looking for the prey, you're looking what's around you.
Well, yes, it's what we call an entrepreneur's sense. They have a flair for business. They have a flair for opportunity, which is what a hunter does. A hunter likes to hunt, actually, very often. Now you hunt to get food, okay, it's useful, or you hunt because you're excited by the hunt. Like cats. Some cats, you know, will get a mouse and let it go, and get the mouse and let it go, and get the mouse. He's not hungry. He loves the hunt. Some entrepreneurs, they see an opportunity, they get it. As soon as they get it, they get disinterested. What other opportunities are there? Okay. He's not going to actually enjoy the material dimension that he hunted. It's not the prey, it's the hunt. And that's what we call serial entrepreneurs. And usually they do the same thing with their women. In other words, they see an opportunity, they gotta have it. And as soon as it works, well, they look around for other opportunities. They get disinterested. It worked. There's nothing better for an entrepreneur than a woman he can't get because he wants to hunt and hunt and hunt and hunt. It's exciting. It's the hunt. Okay, some entrepreneurs. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs actually is like business Casanovas, you know. They succeed, they make babies, but they don't raise them. They're already gone off for another hunt. And so the company may start going down and so on. Now, some entrepreneurs are smarter than that. They put a good manager because they know they can't manage. So they hire an excellent manager who will raise the kids and they move on. But this is all around the sense of smell. So the extension of the sense of smell is actually your capacity to achieve, your urge to go out there and achieve, and to achieve the goal. Now, there's a lot of people who don't have that urge or give up. They're not hunters. You can take each of the senses and find out in you how far you take it in its extension. Now, people say we have 6 senses besides consciousness. So that's the main pipe, we could say. Besides that, we have 6 senses. But each have their extension. There's almost extrasensorial. It's out of the body. It's extended. Like the ear for harmony, or vision for prevision, prediction, you know, visualizing the future. A lot of people that are visual are actually visualizing tomorrow all the time because they need to prepare. Visuals are control freaks. Because if you visualize the future, well, you have to do something now. Okay. So, and they go from visualizing to visualizing to they're always into anticipation to make sure that it's not going to be dramatic. So they plan and plan and plan. So that's the good point in a way. If you want somebody that's a good control freak, well, get a visual. But if that person is only visual, well, he's going to miss out on a lot of other senses. A lot of other skills that he could develop in himself. But it's not bad to be a good visual, but to anticipate, you know, and prepare. But it's good also to have a sense of harmony, a sense of, you know, achievement through the smell. And taste has an interesting extension too. Stefan, let's have your question.
Hello, Alan. So my question is basically, I have a hard time finding a balance between basically spirituality and the material world. Like you said previously, that the society basically makes us dull to our senses. So for example, in my work of line, sometimes I have long periods of dead time. And when I have these long periods of dead time, I can basically connect, and I become hyper focused, I become hyper aware. I am basically constantly focused and present. And suddenly that balance gets disrupted, and the sense of urgency and the sense of intense stress suddenly comes into my life. So I kind of have to abandon my presence and kind of enter in an autopilot mode, you know, dull the senses basically.
Okay,
So
wait. You're going to give me a long description.
basically, how can you how can I make so that whenever I have stress and I have to deal with situations that require urgency, how do I make so that the feeling of presence doesn't overwhelm me? I don't know if I can.
Well, it goes both ways, but you're also either or. Okay.
Yes, but
Wait, not yes, but you're not listening completely. You want to argue.
sorry.
And yes, but is an illustration of what I just said. Okay. In other words, yes, but is either or.
Mhm.
You could say yes and. That's
Alright.
not either or, it's both. So your linguistics show that you're either or. Either you're connected or you're not. When you're connected, you lose it with reality. When you're with reality, you lose your senses. Okay. And then you're going to say, well, how do I stop being either or? Yes, good question. How can you be both and both?
Exactly.
Okay. So now that you know the issue, how can you practice doing both and both? In other words, you get into your senses to escape reality, and then it gets dramatic and you have to get back to reality with pressure and forget your senses. Okay. I got it.
Exactly. That's
Okay,
pretty much
we got it.
Okay.
So how are you going to practice doing both all the time?
Yeah, basically
Start-
maintaining balance.
Start small. Start small. In other words, go cook a dinner by being very present. So you're acting and developing something. Being present. Being present without being under stress. And then go do something else and be present. You need to bring your meditation into your action and your action into meditation. Okay. So start building your program to get the two to mix. It's clear?
All right. Thank you.
But just from the way you talk, the whole thing is clear. The issue is clear. You know what to do. So instead of either or, all or nothing, da 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 da. I hear this pattern. Well, in all or nothing, you're always going to miss the other half. So how can you do both? It's clear? Do both all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, now, Alan, should we take a break now? And then I would have a few questions, or
Okay.
break?
Whatever. Does somebody need a break? Somebody went like this. Usually when somebody needs a break, about half the room needs a break.
We can have a break,
How long?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Is that enough?
It is
Monica?
5
Oh.
minutes.
So 5 minutes on your clock.
Yeah.
Okay, and be right back. And I'll go also for a quick break and take a drink.
You're back.
Yeah, I took my break.
I think you're on time. I think you're on time. I was thinking, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, it's already 5 minutes. I think we're early.
Not
No?
sure. No. It's only 4, I think.
No, it's not 5.
It's 5 now, Christina. It
You're
is.
from Socotit.
Okay.
There are 5 minutes.
So Alain, I was thinking now that it might be the right moment to talk about why presence. I mean, I have a few questions connected. I will ask them and then follow them through. Why presence is important in an entrepreneur's life? How can they practice presence, and how the fundamentals assist them with being present and learning present and being more efficient by being present. So can we start with the first one? Why is that important to be present for an entrepreneur, for somebody who works, who wants to achieve things which are not in the now, of course?
Well, it depends what we call an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, for some people, it means I'm doing a lot of different things trying to succeed. I remember when I came to Romania, a lot of people, say, what do you do? I'm an entrepreneur. Basically, it meant that I'm unemployed. And then they started saying I'm a coach, which was the same thing. So, very often it was somebody who had 5, 6 things going. He was trying to sell apartments, and he was trying to do this, and he was trying to do that, and none of them were really succeeding. But what he meant is, I'm trying to do my own business. I'm not hired by somebody else. So, now that's one, definition. And then when it starts working one way or another, and starting to, find a way that works, then you could say, okay, he's an entrepreneur, but he couldn't just be a good manager. In other words, he found his way of doing things and he's developing. Because my definition of an entrepreneur, in a way, is somebody that really has a sense for the hunt. Okay, so he'll build a business, and then he'll say, okay, I have some money, I'll build a hotel. That's easy, anybody can do that. So you have a lot of entrepreneurs that go into the hotel and restaurant business and so on and so forth. And the idea, as soon as they have one, is do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. In other words, grow. And sometimes it's not really well managed. The idea is to develop before it works. It has to grow. So it's closer to the hunt. But some become, big, successful entrepreneurs. So you have the whole range. But it's not because, I don't know, some people buy a business. They go to business school. They buy a business. They have a financial, kind of intellectual way of doing it. So, okay, financial, if I'm structured as a financial, I'll come in, I'll cut the extra costs. I'll get everybody back to business. I'll make the business successful. Get back to the core business, do it right. Now, it doesn't mean I'm a developer type of entrepreneur. It means I know how to run a business so it doesn't go all over the place. Actually, an entrepreneur tends to go all over the place. Okay, so running a business, even if it's mine, doesn't mean I'm an entrepreneur in the hunter's sense. Okay, it could be I'm a good leader. People follow me, but am I, so what do we mean by entrepreneur? Now, my take on entrepreneur is somebody or anybody If I'm a good financial manager, there's a good chance I go into micromanagement and I look at all the numbers and, you know, make choices. I'm analytical. I'll probably wear glasses because it's all very visual. So to answer your question in a different way, I think it's interesting for anybody to start practicing other senses, no matter what you do. So if you're an entrepreneur or a businessman or a finance manager or a CEO in somebody else's company or whatever, a human being, it's good to develop. In other words, enlarge your capacity to use senses you don't use.
Okay, and how would that help you in your work?
Well, if you have more senses, you won't be, you know, limited to one. You'll catch more things. You'll be more in contact with what's happening in the environment all the time. You'll feel what's going on much more in a larger way. There's senses that, you know, they can develop in a lot of different ways into extrasensorial dimension. In other words, farther from the sense.
So it enriches your world, you perceive more, you are aware of more.
You're more connected to the world here and now.
Does it automatically bring you to be more connected with yourself or not necessarily?
Well, the senses are in you. If you don't listen to them, you're not connected. It's your senses. It's your interface with the world. So, there's this thing I read about once, which is informational t-shirts. I don't know if you know those.
Not sure.
Okay, so I don't know if it's true or a fake, but it sounds really good. At any rate, it happens with other senses, and that's real. But informational t-shirts are t-shirts that actually can give your whole body, it's tight and so on. You wear it all day. And you can program it to give you information by pixels. Okay, so your body hairs are like antennas. Okay? And your skin is like an antenna. It's the sense of touch. Okay. So you're wearing this t-shirt that's programmed to give a lot of information on the stock market. You know, what's moving here, what's moving there, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all, you know, in there somewhere. And you're walking around all day and you're getting information on the stock market. Now, intellectually, it's good to read about the stock market every night. Okay. And gradually, without reading, you'll have a sense of what's happening on the stock market.
Wow.
Okay. It could be on global weather or whatever. In other words, their capacity to connect with the environment is much larger than we think. Much larger. There's this thing that happened with blind people that have a problem with the eyes and the eye nerve. It's not in the brain, okay? They're blind. They made this camera that they put on the glasses. So the guy who wears dark glasses is blind anyways, but there's this camera with a thin wire that goes into his mouth on a plate. Now the tongue is extremely sensitive. So the camera puts a picture on the mouth with pixels. In the beginning, there are rather large pixels. And gradually, they make it smaller and smaller, and the tongue catches what the camera sees. Now, when they study where it's sent in the brain, because the tongue is really sensitive, it isn't sent to the taste part of the brain. It's sent to the sight part. In other words, the brain understands that it's not taste and sends it to the right place. So the person sees through his tongue.
Wow.
okay? And can walk around with this thing, just this wire coming into, in one case, I mean, our capacities are huge. Have we trained for it? How can we train for it?
Could you please share how you do train for perceiving differently in the
Well-
fundamentals
Well,
specifically?
the field is so large. I worked with American Army sharpshooters when I was doing my military service because I spoke English, so I had to babysit them when they came for a shooting competition and so on. And okay, they train to lower their heartbeats to 60 beats per second. So they come to the shooting range, they lower it. They control the rate of heartbeats. They can lower it to 40 beats per second, but the beats are too strong. So, 60 is good. That means they have 1 second to shoot between heartbeats. And they just sit there, lower their heartbeat, and start shooting. Boom, boom, boom. With regularity. It's how many you can shoot, I don't know, in 20 seconds and 30 seconds, and how many are, it's high level competition. Now, how do they do it? Well, they have a biofeedback machine. They just sit in a room and do nothing. And is linked to the heartbeat, but they have a light that goes on at the rate of the heartbeat. And they notice sometimes it goes slower, it goes faster. And they concentrate on the light until they slow the rate of the light.
Mm.
They don't need the light anymore because they know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we're not conscious of the rate of our heartbeat. It may come as a surprise to you, but I knew a woman who knew exactly when she was ovulating. She could feel it. Now, a lot of them say, I don't. Exactly. She could feel it in her body. She's connected to her sensations. That's a whole set of other senses. It's not touch. Touch is with outside. Sensations are inside. What's my sensation of what's happening in my guts, in my heart, in my lungs? What's the information I'm getting from the inside?
Mm.
There's a lot of information coming from the inside because our body as a system reacts to the outside, catches a lot of things. The heartbeat increases. Why? Are you aware that it's beating, 5 beats more per minute, 10 beats more per minute? Oh, we become aware when it gets above 100. Can you, just stop and slow it? Now, with biofeedback machines, you can learn how to lower your artery pressure. So if you're in hypertension, you don't need medicine. Just get a biofeedback machine and practice lowering your pressure. You can control your alpha, beta, gamma, brain waves. So you can get in deep meditation states with a biofeedback machine much faster than exploring in the dark, not knowing what you're doing is right or not. So actually, this teaches us there's ways to learn to be aware, and then once you've learned, well, you can focus on it. What's my blood pressure is getting high. I need to lower it. Okay, here it goes. We have huge capacities. You know, the eye can catch in a dark, dark room the presence of one photon.
Wow.
One photon. And in a dark, dark room, there's photons zipping by that somehow managed to get through walls or whatever, I don't know. We have extremely sensitive senses. We don't listen to. Now, I was talking about water. It's vital. When we were animals, we didn't have bottled water or, you know, water that came through pipes. We had a live water, real live water from sources. And we had to be able to tell right away if it was infested, if it had a cadaver in it or whatever, if we could drink it or not. Now, the extension of taste is interesting. The extension of taste is actually telepathy. Because water has memory. And our body has memory of water. And there's connections at a distance with water, through water. You take twins that were raised through the same water, the same breasts. You send them on opposite sides of the world. If something happens to one, the other one knows it immediately. And the mother is connected. Suddenly she gets up and runs to the bedroom and there's a problem with her child. Or people who mix liquids, lovers. It's the same thing, it's through water. From my first marriage, we'd been married for years and so on, and then we divorced and we decided to, you know, go our separate ways. And then after summer, we talked. Well, it so happens my ex-wife and I went down the same coast, camping, et cetera, okay. Doing the same thing in parallel.
Wow.
Coincidence? Oh, yeah. But it happens between people who are aligned in a way, of the same taste.
Mm.
And you know you're connected at a distance with people of the same taste, with whom you have really aligned. I don't say necessarily drinking or making love or whatever. But you think of some people and then the next day they call you and say, I was thinking about you. And it's some kind of people, not others. The sense of taste is connection at a distance. And it's very often illustrated by the mix of liquids. Eating out of the same plate.
Or smoking the pipe with someone and sharing it, or yeah.
Or having a dog lick your face. Okay. That's been tested.
Mm.
In other words, the dog suddenly gets up from his sleep, he walks to the door. Because he knows his owner is coming home. It's been tested. You know, read Rupert Sheldrake. He wrote a whole book on his experiments where they tell the owner, go home. There's a camera in the home, okay? Nothing else. The dog gets up, goes to the door. Then they call the owner, oh, change of plans, go do some shopping. Oh, the dog would go back to sleep. Oh, now you can go home. Oh, the dog would get up and wait at the door.
Wow.
Dogs lick your face, you know. It's like French kissing. and other animals. So it turns out that we have 6 senses, and all of them have an extension that is extrasensorial, out of body.
Mm.
And there's a lot of things we know, coincidence, blah, blah. Oh, it hasn't been proved by, linear mental scientists that, appeared on the face of the earth in 1800. And they say that everything that's been happening since millions of years are programmed since millions of years. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. They don't even want to go look. It's not in their ideology. Now, in real science, if something has not been proven false, a hypothesis is not proven false, we can take it to be true. Okay. But these so-called scientists say it's not been proven true, so it's false. Okay. Well, E equals MC squared has not been proven to be true. It's a working hypothesis until it's proven false.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Einstein's work has been proven false on some aspects because he said nothing goes faster than the speed of light. And the Nobel Prize last year, Aspect was one of the guys, he's a French guy, one of the guys who got a Nobel Prize because he designed an experiment that seems to prove that information goes faster than twice the speed of light.
Wow.
That blows Einstein's theory out of the ground.
Oh.
Now, it's also about telepathy. It's immediate. So it goes close. In other words, two photons that are created in high correlation. They're initially correlated. You send them off in the opposite directions. Something happens to one, the other one doesn't. They're flying apart twice the speed of light. Once each. Something happens to one instantly, the other one doesn't. But they're initially correlated. Well, it's like mixing liquids. So there's things happening today in our up-to-date sciences. It's the latest Nobel Prize. He did the work 15 years ago, testing Bell's theorem. Bell was a Swiss guy. Well, it's just recognized this year. But this knowledge is here. It's scientists are keeping it because it doesn't fit the frame of reference. It doesn't fit their ideology. They say Rupert Sheldrake's work has flaws. What flaws? Prove it's false. You say, it's not sure it's right. Nothing is true. No hypothesis is true. We're just using them so long as they're not proven false. We used to work with the earth being flat, you know. It wasn't proven false. Now they say it's a sphere. Nobody proved it false yet. It's a working hypothesis. And as we go through history, we always have the arrogance to think we know everything. Come on. They probably did this at the time of the cavemen. We know everything. For people who will come in 2,000 years, they'll say back then it was prehistory. They knew nothing. supposing life survives. So a little bit of, modesty here. Like I say, raising questions is much more interesting than the answers. People they don't want to ask questions. They want to give their answers. So, I mean, I think it's interesting as a coach. I mean, coaching is supposed to be, well, I don't know if we're talking about coaching, but
Yes, please.
it's being, disruptive. Disruptive. Disruptive means you need to interrupt the bullshit you're doing. It's the same root, rupture. We need to break away from our, and get out of the prison. And the prison is program, civilization. Now, I'm not saying Western civilization. Any civilization is a program. We could say the best program would be to have all the civilizations meshed. And then what do they all say? That's probably close to reality.
Mhm.
In a way, that's what Maslow did with his pyramid. So everybody's got some, instinct, like you're born, you suck, you breathe, etc., etc. Beyond this, you need survival. Okay, I'm hungry, I gotta eat. Then beyond this, it's in time, it's security. And it becomes social. Every civilization, in different ways, but every civilization demonstrates these needs that come in order. And the last one, of course, is spiritual. Every civilization. Now, practically every civilization has looked at the stars and gave them meaning in different ways. Now, you talk to any scientist, astrology is bullshit. It hasn't been proven true. Well, prove it's false. Humanity has been doing in different ways since the beginning of time. So the signs say, but the signs in China are not like the signs in Europe, so it's false. No, we have different cultures. They each interpret the same reality, that we're influenced by the stars.
No.
All of them. Now, if you want to be scientific about it, there's, take a worm from an ocean, pull him out of the ocean, and the worm has rhythms linked to the moon, okay? Put him in a glass of water. There's no more tides. He still has the rhythm. You take him 200 kilometers west, he'll have the rhythm of the tide if there was a tide in his glass. Okay. He'll adapt to the tide if there was a tide in his glass. In other words, he's connected to the moon.
Mm.
Now, if a worm can do it, I can do it. If you have a room full of women, they have the periods at practically the same time. We're all influenced by the moon, among other things. Hello?
Would you please share some details about the group of fundamentals that will start in September, I think, and about the program, please? And maybe connect it to presence if possible.
Well, the idea in the fundamentals is, again, practice, practice, practice. So that's what we're talking about. And the practice in the beginning is about unlearning a lot of habits. Doesn't mean the habits are bad, but it means if you want excess of the things, before that, you have to unlearn. So in the beginning, it's kind of, oh, you know, I can only practice in certain directions. And then we'll enlarge and enlarge and enlarge with skills where you need to share things that you feel and so on and so forth. And a lot of people in the beginning, they, oh, what's this bullshit? And then when they see that in a group, people do it, it works. People do it, it corresponds to a reality. People do it, they start seeing different patterns. Gradually, the training opens to an awareness of another kind of reality. And people are sometimes shocked in the beginning, but after 3 months of practicing, they start realizing that it's actually in their lives. So it's an introduction. It's an opening. In other words, you get conscious that life actually rests on a lot of things that you don't see, that you haven't been programmed to see in school. You've even been programmed to say, oh, that's bullshit, it's a coincidence. Now, coincidence means corresponding incident. In other words, they're linked. A mother gets up and runs to her room because her child is, it's a coincidence. They are correlated incidents. She feels something, something's happening over there. Coincidental. Now, we call another word synchronicity, and we call another word, you know, it's telepathy. In other words, there's connections that are there that we use in everyday life, but we are not conscious. The fundamentals is work to become conscious. So what you need to know is there's a lot of practice. I ask the participants to practice 2 hours a day by phone. And you know, it sounds like a lot, but it's half-hour slots. So you can do half an hour in the morning, half an hour lunch. But the practice is really, really important. Because we don't learn intellectually. That's going back to school, taking notes, writing down on a piece of paper. That doesn't change your synapses. So I even tell people, don't take notes. No, they write down, don't take notes. Go on.
I can tell that that's a truly transformational program. It's the Coaching Fundamentals, signed by Alain Cardon. And we are very, very lucky that we have the opportunity to have Alain in Romania. So for now, I think it's 2 times online and 2 meetings online and 2 meetings on site, right?
Yeah, I think so, but check it. It's online. In France, I think it's 3 times in the classroom, once online. The meta coach one, which is about teamwork, is all online, and I sometimes change it. So check it on the website. But I think you're right. The first and the last is in Bucharest, and the middle ones, the 2 middle ones. So it's 2 days a month of practice, 2 days a month of practice, 2 days a month of practice. So actually you're going to practice 180 hours. In the classroom, it's only 60 hours. It shows you how much the practice is important. And you can go over, don't go under. You know, I know that one person in a month in between, he did more than 60 hours. He did some 90 hours of practice on the phone. Okay, the more you practice, it's like tennis or piano or whatever, the more you become good. So learning, you know, a skill is not intellectual. I like to say, you know, I can show you PowerPoints and have you read books on swimming. I push you in the water, you'll drown. Same thing with piano or driving or anything. You need to get behind the wheel and do kilometers and kilometers and kilometers and kilometers, or, you know, swimming pool lengths. Then when you did 1,000 lengths, you know, you'll become a good swimmer. Not as good as 10,000. It's just practice. I know a woman in Romania, a girl, well, she's in her 20s, she's becoming a professional pianist. She practices 11 hours a day on her piano until her fingers are bloody.
Wow.
She puts tapes on her finger to continue the practice. She's becoming an international pianist. Okay, playing in concerts in different countries already. There's no secret to development. It's practice. If you want to become good in any dimension. So, like I said, you know, the fundamentals are an introduction. It gives you what you need to have to practice, but then you'll see that you're starting to do it with your friends, with your family, with your clients. That's an excellent place to practice. If you're doing work with clients, okay, you practice every day.
Now, Christina, please share the link on the message, in the message. So you can leave your details there, and then your details will go to Janina or Carmen, I think, to Alain's team, and somebody from the team will contact you. So if you would like to train with Alain as a coach, that would be a great opportunity. And also, Alain, if you could share, please, why as a manager or an entrepreneur, what kind of skill sets would you be able to develop there, and how to use it then in your work?
It's the same. In other words, coaching skills are communication skills. They're effectiveness skills. It's like a minute ago, you know, the first question, somebody asked a question, I knew what it was about right away. And then, wow, how do you get this? It's simple. It's practice. It's listening to patterns in linguistics. Patterns are everywhere. The same person, I can, you know, step in a car with the CEO. We don't need to go far. I know exactly how he manages. By the way, he drives. Yeah. Immediately. I mean, you know a bunch of them. Big black car, arrogant, honking all over the place. The road is mine. No respect. Okay, I know how he manages. Another one respects, you know, takes care, respects the rules, drives well, goes in the flow. Some people who go with the flow go faster than the ones who honk. They just don't make noise.
There is someone here who would like to take you for a ride.
It happens by accident. Go meet a person and say, oh, I have another meeting. I'll say, okay, I'll come with you. We can talk on the way and do our coaching on the way. But everything they say, everything they do is a reflection of everything they say, everything they do. So if you know how to look at patterns, you don't listen to the content anymore. You see the patterns, they hit you in the face. Then as a manager, you become much more strategic. As you know, I see patterns even in international politics. I once wrote an article in the beginning of Brexit because people were saying a lot of bullshit. Say, okay, here's a systemic look. Now, 3 years later, somebody pulled out the article and said, oh, Alan was right. Now, it's just patterns. Things are predictable. You can see it.
And actually, what was really helpful from what I learned from you is that you are, as a manager or as an entrepreneur, you are more efficient to change the system by looking at patterns. Yeah. And actually work with the system, not with individuals only, but with the whole system.
Yeah, that becomes more obvious I mean, in complexity. In other words, the beginning to look at patterns as the fundamentals. There's a lot of practice one-on-one, and we start getting into the collective towards the end. And now, if you really want to develop on managing teams and organizations and bigger complexity, well, there's some practice there too. Because in a way, the patterns you have in a team are like in your family. And I mean collective. In other words, you can deal one-on-one with every person in your family separately. But you put them all in the same room, it becomes another ballgame. A lot of people don't want to face the whole thing simultaneously. They can deal one-on-one. Now, a lot of managers manage one-on-one. They don't know how to deal with the whole team. They're kind of scared of it. So it's all behind the scenes, one-on-one. There's a lot of families that function like this. But then you bring them all in the same room at Christmas, it's a huge drama. That's why people are scared of Christmas. Going to have to face the whole team at the same time. Ooh. So the collective dimension is not the same as one-on-one. There's higher complexity simultaneously. And it's great to go explore it so as to know how to deal with it, because or else you'll always run away from it and have difficulty being in a team. Now, a lot of managers don't work on that dimension deeply. So they manage one-on-one. So there's no team. And everybody's in their silo. And then they say, why don't they work together? Well, just like in your family.
I think Raluca is wanting to ask a question.
Yeah.
I want to share something from my experience. Hi, hi everyone. Hi, Alan. Thank you for.
You also did the meta coach, which is the team dimension.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about, because you have the fundamentals, and also there's the next level, which is team coaching. And actually, this afternoon, I did the team coaching session. And there's something that I've learned from you, well, from all the practice, but the questions that I'm asking is, well, you have a manager and he bitches about, oh, the employees do that and do the other. Okay, I'm listening, you're present, but you're not getting into the client story. This is something extremely important, which not other coaching school taught me. And then I'm asking the client, which is the manager in front of me, so how are you doing exactly the same thing right now with me in your session? And this shocks them out of that. It's horrible because they just they play the same games. Like this bunch of managers had the problem with people not taking decisions.
Yeah. Wait, you can be a little more frank if you have a good relationship.
Yeah.
You can tell them, you don't need to describe it anymore. You're doing it with me and I know how you feel.
Yeah, that's it. And there's something else which I learned from working with you, which is huge in team coaching and in any kind of coaching. It's the feed forward. The simplest thing in the world is when you look at the person, you have an interaction there, you say, next time you do this kind of thing. And for me, it has been a game changer because I'm doing this in my coaching sessions for myself. But then one of the problems with managers that want to develop themselves and their teams is that they can't be present enough with the employee in order to offer an honest and heartfelt feed forward. They're always looking for improvement, things that go wrong. What I've learned working with you is that you need to build on what you have and not destroy what you imagine. So, it's just, today I lived all the things that I've learned in the past 2 years in a session today.
Yeah. In a way, I like what you're sharing because it gives a taste or something of it, but these are little snippets or informational parts or indicators of something much larger that you need to catch and it all fits in. In other words, you can't learn this by just learning this technique, that technique, that technique. And when they do this, what do I do? You know, you need to get the whole thing, because it's a change of frame of reference. And then everything fits in and it flows. You catch it. Because a lot of people want to learn coaching by learning the techniques. And so they say, oh, you know, when somebody does this, what do you do? When somebody does that, what do you do? They haven't changed frame of reference. Because actually, if you change the frame of reference, then the technique all fit together, and then you'll invent more, because you're in a different flow. And so it's like changing your world. Now, this is good for coaches, managers, human beings, parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You'll use it everywhere, because you'll change your way of being. So watch it, you know, in a way, when you say it's a game changer, it means you're not on a soccer field anymore. You're playing water polo, you know. So,
yeah, I remember one of my colleagues in coaching said, what book can I use to learn this? And you said, stop being an intellectual, go and apply it and you'll find for yourself. I love that. I used it with all my clients, that how can I learn more? Apply it. Stop learning stuff.
start doing. You know, I mean, we learn everything by doing. So any other comments or questions? Or thank you for all the plugging of, you know, different stuff I do. And there's also other things. There's a bunch of books if you read English on Amazon. There's a bunch of books in Romanian that are still being translated. There used to be 7 books for a number of years, and now we're getting close to 10. There's, I think, 3 that came out this year, and there's more being translated. I want to increase the number of books in Romanian. But like we said, you don't learn by books. It'll give you an idea. You learn more by jumping in the pool and doing it. For me, the books are actually support for the training I do, so people can go back to it and then they feel it again because they went through it. If you haven't, you know, if you haven't been on snow in your life, never seen snow, well, reading a book on skiing is like, you know, science fiction. And that's kind of the difficulty with reading books on systemic thinking and so on. You know, you'll catch some things, but you've never seen snow. So you need to jump into the element and really practice it. And then you'll catch a lot of things. And then you'll regret and say, I have to do it again. That's what Monica did. She did it several times. You know, there's so much I missed. I need to do it again. It's really, really, you know, complex.
And eye-opening and transformational. And there is a before and after. So you will never see the word after training with Alain Cardone or after an interaction with Alain Cardone as you saw it before. So that's really amazing.
And you need to keep it alive. You need to keep practicing, stay in it. Because if you just drop it and go back to business as usual, well, you know, your body forgets. So in a way, it's the beginning of a change of life. Now, you were saying, actually, you can connect with Carmen, or on the website, there's a contact thing. I'll fill it up and send it, and she'll contact you and explain more. And I think her phone number is there, so you can contact her. You can contact Janina, you can contact me, no problem. If you have questions, more administrative, that's Carmen. She does the administration in Romania, and more on the process, it's with me. I mean, we described the main element of the process is there's going to be practice every day of your life for 3 months. You will be coached 4 times a day for short sequences for 3 months. And there you need to be authentic, come with real issues, not intellectual stuff, things that are happening, I don't know, with your husband, your wife, your children, your work, real issues, not come and bullshit about intellectual, or coaching. Come with life issues.
May I ask you something, Alan?
Yep.
Because I had this question from the middle of the session. Can you share how we can get quickly achieving a meditative state? Because I was wondering, to get 2 minutes every day, every hour, I'm thinking at myself that for getting that mood, it takes kind of.
Now, this is an evolution. In other words, you need to first do some good meditation, deep meditation. And I would say the best way is probably do marathons, go on a retreat that's all meditation, really get a deep, experience of it. So a marathon is great. Then you can start, putting it in your life.
Okay.
So it's like learning how to draw. You're not going to learn 5 minutes every day, every hour. It's good to go to a good marathon a week, a group experience in a nice setting, a retreat, and learn how to paint. And then, okay, you can set up something in your apartment, and do it. For me, I was doing this for archery, for instance. I did a lot of archery, but at the time I lived in a suburb, I had, a target at the end of the garden that shoot 3 arrows. I go get them, but I had my, veggie garden right there. So I'd pull out a few weeds and so on, clean the garden, go back, shoot 3 more arrows, do some more stuff in the garden, and go back and shoot more arrows. It was, in the flow of the day, with a lot of other things that so it's not like, making a big effort for 1 hour, shooting a lot of arrows, going back and then getting back pain and this and that because you did too much. So how can you, everything you want to do, how can you insert it in your life? Now that happens with the fundamentals, because when you practice with other participants 2 hours a day, you'll gradually see that, you're doing something different with your husband, with your, with your kid, with your friend. You'll start reacting differently here and there. Within 15 days, you'll start noticing. If you do the practice, you'll start noticing small changes and more, and people will say to you, what's happening? You're different. You'll get feedback from your environment. It doesn't happen after 3 months. It starts happening very quickly because you practice a lot. So it seeps into your life. And actually, people think 2 hours a day is a lot. But if you really practice the skills, you will see that you get more effective and you waste less time elsewhere. You actually gain the 2 hours that you think you're losing. You won't accept as many vampires in your life. You'll put stop to things. You'll make choices. You're going to change things in your life and end up having more time than you think before the end of the trip. So the process of transformation is constant over 3 months. It's not, I got to do all this after 3 months, poof, I've changed. No, it's a constant evolution, where by the end of, I would say, even 2 months, you'll feel much more effective, get more results in different areas. People,
Okay, thank you very much for sharing about the coaching fundamentals and also to train us about presence. I think the main idea I leave with is that by practicing different senses that I'm used to, I could become a big antenna and understand or connect with the word in a different way. And it's all about practice, practice, practice. If you would wrap it up in a few sentences, what's the main idea we should live with, Alain? Or
I really don't know.
you don't know? Okay, maybe you want
No.
to share on chat what's the most important idea you live with.
Is you know, develop, go on. Life is about exploring and development, and that's through actions, is not through books. I wrote a lot of books, but I wrote the books for myself. It's to help me think. Then, okay, I figure, okay, let's put it out there, you know. But very often you'll see in my books, it's actually books about the reality, about clients. There's stories all over the place. There's even one book, it's all case studies. I think it's 22 stories explained. But in all the books, I have an experience with a client. I try to make sense out of it. To do that, I write. It's kind of like self-coaching. And then after a while, okay, it becomes a book. During COVID, it was great. I found about 10, no, I'm exaggerating, 5 folders in my computer of, you know, themes that have been accumulating for a while, never became a book. COVID gave me a lot of time. I put out 5 books in 2 years, I think, just to finish all the files that I had been writing on. So that's to say, okay, you know, it's great, buy the books and read them, but you'll actually learn more through practice. But I mean, that's it. I don't know how to make a synthesis. I didn't have a plan. Didn't speak much about touch and sensation, body sensations, because that also has extensions. So.
Would you share that? What's the extension
Well,
of
the
touch
extension
and
of
body
touch
sensation?
is your capacity to transmit. It's transmission. And very often the people who have an excellent sense of touch in their fingers are also, you know, healers, artists, pastry chefs, etc., pottery. And what they do will touch people a generation later. You know, writers, I have an excellent sense of touch. And actually, whenever in the beginning I wrote with a pen, if I got stuck, I'd get a hand massage. And for the next 3 days, it would come pouring out. So it's your capacity to transmit, actually. And then the body is intuition, body sensations. You feel things. It's the antenna as a whole with all the other senses. But you'll get a gut feeling. You know, you'll get whatever. And that's very often intuition. For me, very often it's suddenly I feel faint. There's something in my head. It may link to sudden drop in blood pressure or something. And I feel faint and dizzy, and I know there's something I need to watch out for. It's an intuition, a premonition type of intuition of something that's coming. I've gradually learned to listen to it a little bit. So
when something is coming, can it be from outside or inside? So both.
No, from outside.
From outside.
That's the antenna catching it. The antenna is actually fed by all the senses, including the body sensation. But maybe what's coming in will appear in part of your body more than another. And I think some people are more sensitive in their hearts, or maybe in their neck or something, or even on their skin. Your skin gets, your hair go on end also. For me, it's very much the gut also.
Thank you very much. This was an
Welcome.
amazing meeting.